Okay, so November 6, 2012, all the U.S. citizens, they're all excited to vote, and there's a list of propositions. And today I would like to talk about one of the propositions, which is Proposition 34, which was to get rid of the death penalty. And with this proposition, instead of having the death penalty, they were going to have life in prison, and with or without parole. And with that, the criminals, they would work in jail, and they'll be paid, and all the money that they work for was going to go to all the victims' families. So today, I believe that we made a mistake as citizens in California to not pass this proposition. And next time it gets on the ballot, I believe we should. And the three reasons why are because, one, it takes out a lot of money of taxpayers. All of us work, most of us work, we go to college and work. Two, it's not a deterrent like a lot of people say it is. And three, you're risking sending innocent people to jail. To the death penalty. So, first of all, what I would like to talk about is how it takes money out of taxpayers' wallets. So as the years pass, the amount of money spent on the death penalty keeps growing to millions and millions of dollars just spent on one person. As in any regular trial, the death penalty needs nearly twice as many things. They need abundantly more pretrial time, they need experts on the case, and they need double attorneys, and they have two trials. The first trial is to say if they're guilty or innocent, and then the second trial will be to give them the death sentence. And then after that, most of the time, the culprit does appeals, so there goes more time and more money spent. And they all conclude to the cost of the death penalty amounts to a net expense to the state and the taxpayers. And this comes from a journal called The Facts About the Death Penalty. Millions of dollars are spent every year to send people to their final days, but is it really worth it in this recession? It's not just the trials that are rigorous and expensive, but it's also you have to feed them, they have to care for them, and they need more security for these inmates. Our state alone could save money on this form of capital punishment. From the book Executing the Will of the Voters, a roadmap to mend or end the California legislator multi-million-dollar death penalty. Since reinstating the death penalty in 1978, California taxpayers have roughly spent $4 billion to fund a dysfunctional death penalty system that has been carried out no more than 13 executions. The current backlog of the death penalty cases is so severe that most of the 725 prisoners now on death row will wait well over 25 years before their case is resolved. So obviously, these people are sitting in death row, they're waiting for their case to be resolved, waiting all these years. Like I just said, it's 20 years, and most of these people die from natural causes. So all this money is getting taken out of taxpayers' wallets, and some of these people don't even get to be executed. So it's just kind of a waste of money because they're just sitting there and they just die maybe of a heart attack, maybe of old age, and stuff like that. So on to my next point, that it's a deterrent. There's no doubt that the death penalty has not lowered crime rates in the states that have this form of capital punishment. According to the book, Do Executions Lower Homicide Rates? The Views of Leading Criminologists? In short term, the conscience among criminologists is that the death penalty does not add any significant deterrent effect among that of long-term imprisonment. Acknowledging this fact, one of the stronger suits of the death penalty becomes a weakening point in this case. There is a clear reason why some states are fine without the death penalty and having life in prison. And you can't really scare people from what they want to do. A lot of people, they're psychopaths, so they have already decided that, I'm going to kill this person. Like Jodi Arias, the one that killed her boyfriend in the shower, she already had this all planned. She drove from California to Arizona to kill, her boyfriend, So, having the death penalty, they already know if they kill it, you have a possibility of being able to get, death row. So, last but not least, the biggest fault with the death penalty is that 1 out of 7 people that are on death row are innocent. Every time we try to convict someone with the death penalty, there is a chance that we might send an innocent victim to their final days. It is a huge factor that needs to be acknowledged when choosing someone to end someone's life. quote, since the reinstatement of the modern death penalty, 87 people have been freed from death row because they were later proven innocent. And this comes from facts about the death penalty. Not only are people freed from the death penalty due to innocence, but also due to lack of evidence. And their convictions, 2 out of 3 convictions are overturned because of lack of evidence. There's people in the court system that think it's okay to have these innocent people killed. In this journal, it's talking about the capital punishment. The author Stoltenberg quotes that there is no criminal justice system in the world that is 100% accurate. One of the prices we have to pay if we want the death penalty is going to be to execute someone innocent people. There is no way to avoid that, he says. The truth of the matter is that we can avoid this punishment by changing the form of capital punishment we have in our states. Like Jodi Arias said, after she confessed being guilty, killing her boyfriend, stabbing him 27 times, shooting him in the head, she said that she wanted the death penalty because it was freeing her, Instead of her sitting in jail, all her years until she dies, it was just, she was just going to get it over with. She was going to die and that was it. It was perfectly fine. It was a perfect, way to get out of what she should be doing. So in conclusion, many people will say, just kill them. They got what was coming to them anyways. What we should say, is it really worth it? Is it really worth the time, the money spent on just getting rid of one of this person? And I believe that it's not. This is a revengeous act that, the government was not made to do. The true justice is letting inmates sit and rot in jail, suffering the consequences of their acts. This form of capital punishment is not the humane way to solve a situation because it does not reverse what has been done. And with the right type of punishment, it will bring justice to the victims' families. By taking out the death penalty, we will help save more money in this recession, prove that it is not a deterrent, and help stop killing the lives of innocent people. Thank you.
All right, the reference to the election is fine. That makes the topic a little bit more relevant, and we get a good sense of your position on the issue right away. I like that. You've got a good setup of what the secondary structure is going to be, and I think you do a good job sticking to that structure during the body of the speech also. So there are pretty clear transitions on those points, and it's easy to follow. Also at the end of the speech there's a good summary that does the same thing, so I don't think anybody's going to get lost in your arguments. They might find that there's some places where the proof needs to be a little bit stronger, but the structure is easy to follow. When it comes to the proof on the individual issues, the cost issue, for instance, we don't really get a very clear definition of what the costs are. We don't have much of a comparison except that you describe some of the things that would make up the costs. If there was a way to measure those costs, which I think I've heard people offer several measurements over the years about how much money, I mean, you basically mentioned we spent $4 billion since 1978 when we restored the death penalty. Well, that's, I'm doing math in my head in front of people again, 35 years, 35 years, that's, I don't know, that's a couple $100 million a year. In light of the state budget, that seems like a pretty small amount. I think what you need to do is point out that especially law enforcement budgets might be impacted because we're spending a lot of money on this, and then we don't have money to spend on those other kinds of things. I think there might be a little bit more argument to make on that point. On the deterrence issue, you've got one statistical correlation that you're making reference to. It appears to be a consensus argument that's being made, although it does seem like it exists in a particular point in the process where there's an argument that says that it's not working well here. I think that you need to talk about this a little bit more also. The way you talk about it explains why maybe madmen and others would not be deterred, but the question then becomes those people who do calculate costs and risk, which is exactly why we have an increasingly higher penalty for a variety of crimes. We assume that there's supposed to be a level of consequence that reflects the crime that's being committed, but also that people are calculating what are the consequences that go into that. So if the theory isn't true that the punishment needs to fit the crime at any level, why do we need any kind of standard here that is more severe than, let's say, 10 years in prison or 20 years in prison, if deterrence is the only measure? I think you point out, for instance, though, that it's not the only measure. There's this concept of vengeance that's going on here. You need to talk more about why that's not an appropriate value for us to be pursuing. I think you've got an argument there that needs to be developed. I thought that you did a pretty good job citing material in the speech. The presentation is also generally solid. I do think that you need to give us a source for some information, though. Especially when you get to the information on innocent people being executed, you've got this data that says 1 in 7 people who are sentenced to death are innocent. And then you mentioned that there's 87 that have been released. Well, 87, we have I don't know the exact number, but I would guess somewhere around 4,000 people on death row in the country right now. 87 is not 1 out of 7 as a percentage there, as a ratio there. So I don't know where this number came from, and I know that you got it someplace, and you didn't just make it up out of your head, but you need to tell us what it's based on and that sort of thing. If you want us to believe your information, you got to build up its credibility a little bit. Okay, thank you.